structure with a triangular outline, and it is in dark red in color. Dark red in color. These two pericardial membranes are called as epicardium and myocardium. Between these two layers, there exists a fluid called as pericardial fluid, which prevents shocks and jets. So, our heart is divided into 4 chambers externally by grooves. There are 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. And 2 ventricles. Auricles also called as atria. So, in our heart, there are 2 auricles and 2 ventricles. These are the 2 auricles and these are the 2 ventricles. This is the right side of the heart and this is the left side of the heart. Right side of the heart consists of an auricle and a ventricle, and the left side also consists of 1 auricle and 1 ventricle. These are divided by muscular partitions called as septa. The septa between 2 auricles is called as interauricular septum, and the septa between 2 ventricles is called as interventricular septum. Right auricle and right ventricle is called as right auricular ventricular septum, and the septum between left auricle and left ventricle is called as left auricular ventricular septum. The blood flows from auricles to ventricles by the help of valves. There are 2 types of valves in the heart between arteries and ventricles. First one is tricuspid valve. Between right auricle and right ventricle, called as tricuspid valve, because it contains 3 cusps. Cusp and flaps. These are the structures which control opening and closing of these valves, and these flaps are attached to the ventricles. And the valve present in the left auricle and left ventricular septum is called as bicuspid valve. The bicuspid valve is also the internal space of left auricle and left ventricle is smaller as compared to right auricle and right ventricle, and the walls of atria are less thicker than compared to the ventricular walls because much force. So the walls of ventricles are very thicker as compared to the atrial walls. And next, there are 2 blood vessels, major blood vessels that originate from the heart. There are arteries and veins. These are the 2 major blood vessels that originate from the heart. So, arteries. Arteries always carry blood away from the heart. These always carry blood away from the heart. Carry blood always towards the heart. These arteries are more rigid as compared to the veins. That means these have thicker walls when compared to the veins. Because arteries, the larger artery present in our body, and not only the larger artery, it is the major and largest blood vessel in our body is aorta. This system systemic aorta oscillates from the left ventricle of our heart. It carries oxygenated blood from heart to all parts of the body. And similarly, the smaller one is pulmonary artery. This oscillates from left to right ventricle of the heart. Pulmonary artery carries black-nated blood, and in the veins there are two major veins. They are inferior and superior vena cava. Here we can see that this is the superior vena cava. This superior vena cava is also called as precaval vein. It collects blood from the anterior parts of the body, such as head and neck. It collects the deoxygenated blood from the head and neck and anterior parts of the body. And next one is the inferior vena cava. Vena cava collects blood from the posterior side of the body, such as hands and legs. It carries deoxygenated blood. Both of these carries blood into right auricle. And the inferior vena cava is called as postcaval vein. Below that, ventricle, and the pulmonary artery originates from the right ventricle. The walls present between the systemic aorta and the left ventricle are called as systemic walls. Next, from the right ventricle is pulmonary artery. The walls present between pulmonary artery and the right ventricle are called as pulmonary walls. Systemic walls. These both walls together called as semilunar walls. Here we use the term semilunar because these two walls are in the semi-moon shape, half-moon shape. So these two are called as semilunar walls. Both of these walls, and this aorta, systemic aorta carries oxygenated blood to whole parts of the body, and this pulmonary artery just carries the blood from heart to lungs. And next, the blood vessel called as blood capillaries. And in the veins, deoxygenated blood. Into some smaller arterioles. The smaller divisions are called as arterioles. From arteries divided into arterioles, and this also carries oxygenated blood. Oxygenated blood was carried, and this arterioles then continues as, when divided as arterioles, these are continued as blood capillaries. The blood moves into blood capillaries. The blood capillaries are single layer epithelial cells. So it has only single layer, so it can allows the diffusion between gases. So the blood flows in the oxygenated blood flows in the capillaries. Body cells diffuse their gases. And the next one, the blood capillaries then continues as venules, because the blood capillaries give the oxygen to every cell of the body, and the blood become deoxygenated. Then vessels, which are the parts of veins called as venules. These venules collect deoxygenated blood from blood capillaries. Then these venules together to form veins. These venules are joined to form veins, and and again the veins carries deoxygenated blood to the body. The arteries and veins. Next one, we will hear the sound of the heart as louder. We have to know about the cardiac cycle. One, systole and diastole and systole. Diastole means resting phase, when they are in the resting phase, and when our chambers, the four chambers are in the active state, this phase is called as systole, that means an active phase. There are three phases in cardiac cycle. Phase 1, auricular contraction. This is called as auricular systole. This auricular systole is called as auricular contraction. And second phase is ventricular systole or ventricular contraction. And the final phase is diastole of both arteries and auricles and ventricles. So, in the first phase, contraction. The blood from the veins enter into the arteries. First, the blood enter into the arteries, and here the arteries begin their contraction. So, the pressure exists in the arteries. So, because of this contraction, the pressure in this and leads to the opening of the tricuspid valves between auricle and ventricle. We discussed about the two valves present in auricles and ventricles, that is tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve. So these valves open because of this arterial contraction. The pressure increases in the arteria, and so the valves open. What happens when the valves open? Ventricular contraction begins because the blood flows into the arteria. So the ventricles begin to contract as the blood pressure increases in the ventricles now. So after that ventricular contraction, the pressure in the ventricle increases, and this pushes the blood into the aorta and pulmonary arteries, the respective arteries. So here ventricular contraction is also completed. When the blood flows in, the ventricle goes into diastole phase. So there will be some gap from first auricle. The rest phase is known as diastole. In this third phase, the blood again fills the arteria. This phase is diastole of all chambers, third phase. And now, comes into arteries. From where? From the pulmonary veins and from inferior and superior vena cava. So the pulse is the left ventricle. So the blood carries blood into left auricle. And the next, inferior and superior vena cava carries deoxygenated blood from posterior and anterior body parts and carries this blood into the right auricle. And when this blood enters into the pulmonary veins, from pulmonary veins to arteria, then arterial contraction begins. And we also told that when arterial contraction begins, the valves will open. When the left auricle is contracted, the bicuspid valves open. In the left auricle, bicuspid valves are present. These bicuspid valves open and let the blood flow into the left ventricles. From this left ventricle, the blood will go into the systemic aorta. And we know that systemic aorta carries blood to all parts of the body. And then the inferior and superior vena cava carries blood from all parts of the body to left, right auricle. So from the right auricle the pressure begins and it leads to the opening of tricuspid valve. In the right, this is the tricuspid valve between right auriculoventricular valve, and this opens and the blood came from the inferior and superior vena cava is deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood enters into the right ventricles. From the right ventricles then opens the pulmonary vein. The pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from heart to lungs. Now let us look. This mainly carries oxygenated blood. Arteries mainly carries oxygenated blood. And veins carries deoxygenated blood. But one artery and one vein are reversed, because in the pulmonary artery the blood flow is deoxygenated blood, and in the pulmonary vein the blood flows is oxygenated blood. We know that arteries always carries blood away from the heart, and the veins always carry blood towards the heart. All the veins mainly carries deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein, because the veins work is to carry the blood towards the heart. So this pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from lungs to heart. When the blood goes into the lungs, it obviously became oxygenated. So what is the work of the vein? So the oxygenated blood comes into the pulmonary vein. What about artery? Artery always carries blood away from the heart. So in the heart, the artery takes the deoxygenated blood to heart, because if all body parts are used, the blood became deoxygenated. So when it is the deoxygenated blood is taken to lungs, the lungs makes this as oxygenated blood. So these arteries and veins always follow a rule that arteries always carry blood away from the heart and the veins always carry blood towards the heart. And is very high as compared to the veins. So, for the pressure, there should be some pressure for the movement of the blood. The pressure in the arteries is enough to carry the blood, but in the veins, it is not enough to carry the blood. So, for improvement of the pressure, for the movement, the veins has valves. But these valves are absent in arteries as there is a pressure, high pressure in the arteries. So it doesn't need any valves. For veins, there is a low pressure in the veins, so it wants valves. These are one-way valves. It doesn't allow the blood flow to opposite direction. First one is single circulation. If blood flows only once through a heart to complete one circulation, it is called as single circulation. Single circulation means the blood flows only once through heart to complete one circulation. But in the double circulation, the blood flows from the heart 2 times to complete only one circulation. It is mainly seen we can see double circulation in mammals. In the single circulation, the blood flows from the heart and only less chamber, maybe 2 chambers are present, and there are no specialized organs for fishes such as lungs for us. So the blood only flows once through the heart. And while the flowing of the blood from heart to other body parts, there are gills present for the fishes, and the blood may be oxygenated there and it comes to the heart. But always the blood flowing in the heart of single circulatory animals is deoxygenated blood. Whereas in the double circulation, the blood flows 2 times. In our right auricle and ventricle, right side of the heart, it consists of right auricle and right ventricle, only deoxygenated blood flows. It consists of left auricle and left ventricle. The blood flowing is oxygenated blood. In the double circulation, there are another 2 circulations. This is divided into 2 subdivisions. They are systemic circulation and second one is pulmonary circulation. In the systemic circulation, these are simply called as greater circulation and lesser circulation. In the greater circulation, the blood flows from heart to all body parts. That means, first in the heart and all body parts, the circulation between heart and all other body parts except lungs is called as greater circulation. As it is called as greater circulation because there are many other body parts, and much of the blood flow in the greater circulation. That means in the systemic circulation, more blood takes more time to travel. Whereas in the pulmonary circulation, it just moves from heart to lungs only. So it takes less time. So it is called as less circulation. Heart to body parts, and the body parts uses the oxygenated blood and sends out deoxygenated blood to the heart. So here there is oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood comes into the heart, the pulmonary artery sends the blood to lungs. There the blood is converted as oxygenated blood, and again the lungs sends back the oxygenated blood to heart through the pulmonary veins. And the deoxygenated blood carried by pulmonary arteries. So, here the lungs send the oxygenated blood, and again this oxygenated blood is carried to the body parts. This is the diagram of double circulation. Coagulation of blood. If any wound or injury happens to us, the blood comes out. But after some time, the blood will be clotted. There is a process, chemical process for the clotting of blood. The blood clots from 3 to 6 minutes. So what happens between this? When the blood comes out, the blood platelets in our body release an enzyme called thrombokines. Thrombokines acts as catalyst and changes the material called as prothrombin into the thrombin. It just acts as catalyst to make the prothrombin into thrombin. And then the released thrombin acts as catalyst. Again, it also acts as catalyst for the fibrinogen. The fibrinogen is a soluble, dissolved substance which is present in the blood. Because of this thrombin, this fibrin, and whereas the fibrinogen is a dissolved substance which is present in the blood, and the fibrin is converted as indissolved substance, and this fibrinogen will enter the outside of the body, and the blood cells entanglate into the fibrin, and hence from the blood cells forms the clot. This fibrin goes into the external surface of the vessels and cover that vessels. The blood cells entangle into the fibrin and forms a red color substance called as clot. Hence, our blood is clotted in 3 to 6 minutes. The heart beats for the 10,000 times per day. And the heart produces the sound lub-dub. We already discussed that the lub-dub sound is produced when the cardiac cycle happens. We have discussed that there are two valves, tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve. also.